The space around Neptune was quiet. Too quiet, Captain Diane Carter thought as she stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant. Her ship had been patrolling the outer edges of human space for 3 weeks, and something felt wrong. "Anything on scanners, Ben?" she asked her sensor officer. Ben Wright shook his head. "Nothing unusual, Captain. Just the normal background radiation and weight." He leaned forward, adjusting something on his screen. "I'm picking up a signal. It's faint, but definitely artificial." Diane walked over to his station. "Source?" "It's coming from beyond Pluto's orbit, Captain. Not in any known shipping lane. Put it through the analyzer." The bridge crew waited as the ship's computer processed the signal. After a minute, the main screen displayed the results. "It's Kelvari," said Lisa Ford, the communications officer. Her voice was tight. Military band, heavily encrypted. Diane's stomach nodded. The Kelvari were an alien race humanity had established peace with 3 years ago, after a brief, tense first contact. The treaty had opened trade and cultural exchange, but military communications this far into human space violated at least 2 articles of the agreement. "Record everything," Diane ordered, "and prepare a tight beam transmission to Earth Central Command, Priority Alpha." 4 hours later, Diane sat in her private quarters, waiting for a response from Admiral Peter Morgan. When her screen finally lit up, the Admiral's face appeared, looking irritated rather than concerned. "Captain Carter, I've reviewed your report. Frankly, I think you're overreacting." Diane blinked in surprise. "Sir, with respect, this is the 3rd unusual Kelvari communication we've detected in 2 weeks. The pattern suggests fleet movement." Morgan waved his hand dismissively. "The Kelvari ambassador has assured us their ships are conducting routine exercises. They have every right to move their fleet within their own territory. But our calculations put these signals well outside their territory, sir." "Your calculations could be off. Space is vast, Captain, and our mapping of the border regions isn't perfect." Morgan's tone grew sharper. "The peace with the Kelvari is fragile and valuable. We can't risk damaging relations based on a few stray signals." After the call ended, Diane sat motionless, staring at the blank screen. Something wasn't right. "Admiral." Morgan had always been cautious, but never dismissive of potential threats. She opened a secure channel that wasn't part of the official military communications network. A minute later, a familiar face appeared on her screen. "Diane?" "It's been ages," said John Russell, smiling warmly. "I need your help, John. Officially, this conversation never happened." John's smile faded. As an intelligence analyst with high-level clearance, he understood what such words meant. "What's going on?" Diane explained the strange communications, and Admiral Morgan's unusual response. "Something's wrong at command, John. I need you to dig carefully. I'll see what I can find. Give me 48 hours. 2 days later, the USS Defiant was approaching the Jupiter defense perimeter when John's message came through on their secure channel. Diane retreated to her quarters to view it. "What you've stumbled onto is bigger than we thought," John said, his face grim. "I've found evidence that several high-ranking officials in Earth's government have been compromised. Their behavior patterns have changed subtly over the past year. Decision-making, communication styles, even sleep cycles are different." He sent over a file. "This shows behavioral analysis for Admiral Morgan, General Hayes, and 3 members of the Defense Council. The changes all began after their diplomatic visit to the Kelvari homeworld last year." Diane opened the file, scanning the data. "Mind control? Some kind of neural influence technology, we think. The Kelvari ambassador regularly meets with all of them, and after each meeting, their decisions increasingly favor Kelvari interests. So, the peace treaty was likely just a way to get close enough to infiltrate our leadership and weaken our defenses." I've found orders redirecting fleet movements, leaving key colonies exposed. Weapons development programs mysteriously defunded. Defense system upgrades that actually reduced effectiveness. Diane felt cold. How far has this spread? We don't know. I've quietly contacted a few trusted officials. We're gathering evidence to present to the president, but we need to move carefully. If the compromised officials realize we're onto them, an alarm blared through the ship, cutting him off. Diane's first officer's voice came over the comm. Captain to the bridge, emergency. I have to go, she told John. Keep working on this. We need to expose them before. Captain, no. First. Officer shouted through the comm. Diane rushed to the bridge. The main screen showed multiple red alerts across the solar system. What's happening? She demanded. We're getting distress calls from all over, Captain, Lisa said, her voice shaking. Calvary ships have appeared near Earth, Mars, and the main colony worlds. They just peered like they knew exactly where our sensor blind spots were. The defense systems? That's the thing, Captain. They're not responding. The automated defenses are offline across the system. Ben looked up from his station, face pale. Captain, we're getting reports of Calvary ground troops on Luna Base. They ... They walked right in. Someone gave them the access codes. Diane gripped the back of her chair. How many ships do we have that can respond? That's just it, her first officer said quietly. Most of the fleet was ordered to the Outer Rim last week for exercises. We're scattered, with minimal communications. The realization hit her like a physical blow. The betrayal was complete. Earth's defenses had been systematically dismantled from within, and now the Calvari were making their move. Get me any ship captain you can reach on secure channels, Diane ordered. Priority code Broken Shield. As her crew scrambled to establish communications, Diane watched the tactical display. One by one, human outposts were going dark. The first colonies had already fallen. Earth itself was surrounded. Captain, Lisa called out, I've got the USS Intrepid, the Valiant, and 3 others on secure channels. Diane straightened her uniform and faced the screen. The worried faces of 5 other captains looked back at her. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, her voice steady despite the fear churning inside her. Earth has been betrayed from within. The Calvary peace was a lie. As of this moment, we are at war, and we may be all that stands between humanity and extinction. Our leaders have been compromised, our defenses sabotaged, and our people are under attack. She paused, looking at each face on the screen. We are the last free ships of Earth, and we will not go quietly. This is where we make our stand. As the captains nodded their grim agreement, reports continued to flood in. The human colonies on Mars had gone silent. Luna Base had fallen. And on Earth, the Calvary ships had begun their descent through the atmosphere. The war had begun, and humanity was losing before the first shot was fired. 6 months had passed since the Calvary invasion began. Commander Eric Simmons stood on the bridge of the USS Valor, staring at the display showing Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon. The mining colony there was one of the last major resource centers still under human control. And now a Calvary battle group was approaching. How many civilians on the colony? Eric asked. Nearly 5,000, replied Natalie Beck, his second in command. The evacuation ships can only take half that number. Eric nodded grimly. Then we make sure those ships get away. Prepare all weapons. Position us between the colony and the incoming Calvary ships. The Valor was not designed for this kind of fight. It was a patrol vessel, fast but lightly armed. The 5 Calvary warships approaching were each twice its size with superior weapons. But they were the only defense the colony had. All hands to battle stations, Eric ordered. Inform the colony to begin evacuation immediately. Priority to children, medical personnel, and essential engineers. The next 30 minutes were tense as the evacuation ships began loading. The Kelvari fleet grew larger on the view screen, their sleek black ships resembling predatory fish. "They're hailing us," said the communications officer. "Put it through." A Kelvari face appeared on screen. Their skin was pale blue with faint scale patterns, and their eyes were large and entirely black. "Human vessel," the Kelvari said. "Surrender." The colony. "Resistance is pointless. You have seen how this war progresses." "This colony is under Earth protection," Eric replied. "The civilians are non-combatants. Allow them to evacuate, and we can discuss terms." The Kelvari made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "There are no terms. There are no non-combatants in this war. Surrender or be destroyed." The screen went black. "Evacuation status?" Eric asked. "First 2 ships loaded and ready to launch. 3 more still boarding." Eric took a deep breath. "Launch the ready ships now. We'll cover them. All weapons target the lead Kelvari vessel. Let's give them something to worry about besides the evacuation ships." The battle began moments later. The Valor shuddered as enemy fire struck its shields. They returned fire, their shots seeming small against the massive Kelvari warships. "Shields at 60%, reported the tactical officer. "Our weapons are barely damaging their outer hull." "Keep firing," Eric ordered. "Status of evacuation?" "Third." "Ship launching now. 2 more still loading." For 20 minutes, they fought a losing battle. The Valor's shields were failing, and hull breaches were reported on multiple decks. But they had managed to damage one of the Kelvari ships, and the others were focused on the Valor rather than the fleeing evacuation vessels. "Commander," Natalie said quietly, "the last evacuation ships are ready to launch, but the Kelvari are repositioning to intercept them." Eric looked at the tactical display. There was only one option. Set a collision course for the lead Kelvari ship. Full power to engines. "Sir?" Natalie's eyes widened. "You heard me. And get the crew to the escape pods. I need minimal personnel to steer this ship." "We can't leave you." "That's an order, Commander Beck. Get our people out. I'll make sure those evacuation ships get clear." The bridge cleared quickly, with protests but no defiance. Within minutes, only Eric remained. He watched the display as escape pods launched from the Valor, small and hopefully unnoticed by the Kelvari, who were focused on the larger threat. "Just you and me now," Eric said to the empty bridge as he piloted the damaged ship directly toward the largest Kelvari vessel. The enemy ship grew larger on the view screen, its weapons firing continuously at the Valor. "Impact in 30 seconds, the computer announced. Eric closed his eyes briefly, thinking of Earth, of blue skies and green fields he might never see again. Then he opened them, determined to face the end. But the end didn't come as expected. A bright light engulfed the bridge, and Eric felt a strange pulling sensation. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was the Valor colliding with the Kelvari ship in a massive explosion. When Eric awoke, he was in a cell. The walls were smooth and white with a faint bluish glow. No visible door, no windows. Just a simple bed and a small sink-like fixture. "Hello?" He called out. His voice sounded flat, absorbed by the walls. "They won't answer," said a woman's voice. Eric spun around. In the corner of the cell, a woman sat on the floor. She was thin with short brown hair and wore a simple gray jumpsuit similar to the one Eric now realized he was wearing. "Who are you?" he asked. "Dr. Susan Miller, Earth Science Division. I was working on Europa when they took me." "Took you?" "The Kelvari captured you during the attack?" Susan shook her head. "I've been here for 3 months. They targeted specific personnel during raids. Scientists, engineers, medical doctors. Eric sat down on the bed, trying to process this information. Where are we? Some kind of Kelvari research station. I've counted at least 30 other human prisoners, all specialists in different fields. Have they hurt you? Not physically. They run tests, take samples, ask questions about our work. Susan moved closer. You're military, aren't you? What's happening out there? Is Earth still fighting? Eric nodded. Yes, but we're losing badly. Their technology is too advanced, and they somehow knew all our defenses, all our strategies. He paused. I'm Commander Eric Simmons. I was piloting the USS Valor when they took me. Transported you, Susan clarified. Right before impact, I'm guessing. They have that technology. They can target specific individuals and transport them through their shields. Why would they save me? The same reason they took all of us. They want something. Susan lowered her voice. And I think I know what it is. Before they captured me, I discovered something about Europa's core samples. There's an element there we've never classified before. It was in trace amounts, but the Kelvari reaction when they found my research was immediate. They called it xanthium. You think they invaded for this element? I think it's bigger than that. From what I've overheard, Earth has the largest deposits of xanthium in this sector of the galaxy, and they need it badly. Susan moved even closer, whispering now. There's something else. Not all the Kelvari agree with this invasion. I've seen arguments between them, heard things I wasn't supposed to hear. Eric was about to ask more when a seam appeared in the wall, widening into a doorway. 2 Kelvari guards stood there, weapons ready. Commander Simmons, one said in accented English, you will come with us. The overseer wishes to speak with you. Eric stood, giving Susan a quick glance that he hoped conveyed reassurance. Don't tell them anything, she whispered as he was led away. Whatever they offer, whatever they threaten, Earth depends on it. As Eric walked between the guards down a long corridor, he saw other cells, other human faces watching him pass. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, the best minds of humanity, collected here for some Kelvari purpose. And for the first time since the war began, Eric felt something new alongside his fear and anger. He felt hope. If the Kelvari needed humans, needed this xanthium element, then humanity still had leverage. And where there was leverage, there was a chance. No matter how small, a chance was all they needed. The old subway tunnel beneath New York City was dark and damp, but it offered the one thing Olivia Garcia and her resistance fighters needed most: safety from Kelvari scanners. 1 year into the occupation, the alien invaders controlled most major cities on Earth, but they couldn't seem to map all the underground networks built by humans over centuries. Status report. Olivia said as she entered the makeshift command center they had established in what was once a maintenance room. Ryan Cooper, her second in command, looked up from a collection of screens cobbled together from salvaged parts. We lost contact with the Boston group 3 days ago. Could be equipment failure. Could be worse. Olivia nodded grimly. Communication between resistance cells was sporadic at best. And the medical supplies? Dave's team got lucky. They raided a Kelvari medical station in New Jersey. We've got antibiotics and pain meds now. Enough for a month, maybe. Olivia was about to ask about weapons when a commotion broke out near the tunnel entrance. She grabbed her rifle and ran toward the noise. Ryan close behind. A small group of fighters was dragging someone into the tunnel. As Olivia got closer, she saw it was a Kelvari. The alien was wounded, blue blood seeping from a gash in its side. What is this? She demanded. Corinne Walsh, the leader of the scout team, stepped forward. Found it wounded about 2 miles from here. Kelvari patrol was attacked by something not us. This one was left behind. And you brought it here? Olivia couldn't believe it. They're trackers. Disabled, Karen said, pointing to a small device that had been removed from the Calvary's uniform. Where not amateurs live. Olivia looked at the wounded alien. It was smaller than most Calvary soldiers she'd seen, its face less angular. It looked at her with those large black eyes, but there was something in them she hadn't seen in a Calvary before. Fear. Secure it, she ordered, and get Paul to check its wounds. If it dies, we get no information. Hours later, after Paul had treated the Calvary's injury, Olivia entered the storage room they were using as a cell. The alien sat against the wall, watching her cautiously. Do you understand me? She asked. The Calvary nodded. I speak your language. Good. Then you can tell me why your people are here. What do you want with Earth? The Calvary was silent for a moment. My name is Kale. I am not a soldier. I was a scientist before ... double quotes. It paused. Before the military. Caste took control. Military caste? My people are divided into castes. The military caste has always been powerful, but in recent years they have taken complete control. Those who opposed them were silenced. Olivia crossed her arms. So not all Calvary wanted this war? Many opposed it. We believed peaceful contact with other species was the better path. But the military leaders ... double quotes. Kale looked down. They were desperate. Desperate for what? A new home. Kale's voice dropped lower. Our world is dying. A plague has been spreading among our people for decades. It affects our reproductive capabilities. Each generation, fewer children are born. Olivia hadn't expected this. The Calvary had always seemed so powerful, so confident. And Earth? Your planet has resources we need. The element you haven't yet discovered, Xanthium, it powers our technology. And your world has the largest deposits we've found. Kale paused, but there's more. Your people have something else, something perhaps more valuable. What? Immunity. Human biology appears resistant to our plague. The military leaders believe that by studying humans, they can find a cure. Olivia sat down across from the alien, processing this information. So they came here to take our resources and use us as lab rats. The military leaders did, yes. But not all Calvary agree with their methods. There is resistance among my people too, though it has been driven underground. Before Olivia could ask more questions, Ryan burst into the room. Liv, we've gotta. Transmission. You need to see this. In the command center, the largest screen showed static and resolved into the face of a human man in a military uniform. He was older, with gray hair and a weathered face. This is Admiral Frank Cooper, broadcasting on emergency frequency 7. To any human resistance groups receiving this message, you are not alone. I am operating from a base on Titan with the remains of Earth's off-world military forces. We are organizing a coordinated resistance effort. If you can safely respond to this transmission, do so using the embedded encryption protocol. The message repeated, and Olivia looked at Ryan in shock. Earth has an admiral still free? With forces? Ryan nodded excitedly. And he's on Titan. The Calvary never fully secured Saturn's moons. Too far from the Xanthium deposits they want. Can we respond safely? I think so. We've got the equipment from that Calvary communications array we captured last month. Karen and Paul have been studying it. Do it, Olivia ordered. And bring our guest. I think Admiral Cooper will want to hear what Kale has to say about divisions among the Calvary. 3 days later, they established secure communications with Cooper's base on Titan. The Admiral's face showed surprise when he saw Kale standing behind Olivia. You have a Calvary with you? Voluntarily? Yes, sir. and he's provided valuable intelligence about why the Kelvari are here, and weaknesses in their command structure. Cooper nodded thoughtfully. That matches with some intelligence we've gathered. We recently made contact with 2 humans who escaped from a Kelvari research station, a Commander Eric Simmons and Dr. Susan Miller. They reported similar divisions. Among the Kelvari ranks, Olivia felt a surge of hope. So there's a chance? We can fight back? More than a chance, Ms. Garcia. We're building something here on Titan. Adapting Kelvari technology, creating new weapons. And with your information about their internal conflicts, we might be able to exploit those divisions. Cooper's expression grew more serious. I've been in contact with resistance cells across Earth and the colonies. We're forming a unified command structure. I want you and your group to be part of it. We're ready, sir. Just tell us what you need. For now, continue gathering intelligence. And ... Cooper glanced at Kale. See if your Kelvari friend can help us contact others of his kind who oppose this war. If we can create division within their forces, we gain an advantage. After the transmission ended, Olivia turned to Kale. Well, can you help us contact other Kelvari who think like you? Kale was quiet for a moment. It would be dangerous. Those who speak against the military caste are usually executed. But the alien looked around at the humans in the command center, all watching him with a mixture of hope and suspicion. I have seen how your people fight, not just with weapons, but with determination. Even facing superior technology, you refuse to surrender. Kale straightened up. There are others like me. If we can reach them, if we can show them that humans are not just test subjects, but potential allies. The alien's black eyes seemed to shine with something new. Yes, I will help you. As the command center burst into activity, Olivia felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time. Genuine hope. The road ahead would be difficult and dangerous, but for the first time since the invasion, humanity wasn't just surviving. They were beginning to fight back, and with allies among the Kelvari themselves. Perhaps they could do more than just resist. Perhaps they could win. 3 years had passed since the Kelvari invasion began. The research lab on Titan hummed with activity as Dr. Susan Miller worked alongside a team of human and Kelvari scientists. The lab was the heart of humanity's scientific resistance, hidden deep within Admiral Cooper's base. Susan adjusted the settings on her microscope and smiled. It's working, she said quietly, then louder. It's working. Her assistant, a young scientist named Alan Parker, looked up from his station. The neural disruptor? Yes, look at this. Susan stepped back from the microscope. The virus targets the Kelvari neural pathways without damaging their brain function. It will disable their military command networks, but leave individual Kelvari unharmed. This was the breakthrough they had been working toward for months. A way to fight the Kelvari without destroying them. A humane weapon for a war that had seen too much death already. We need to tell Admiral Cooper and Commander Simmons immediately, Susan said, saving her data to a secure drive in the command center of the Titan base. Eric Simmons studied the holographic display showing Kelvari fleet movements. After his escape from the research station with Susan 2 years ago, Eric had become one of Admiral Cooper's top military strategists. They're pulling ships from the Jupiter sector, Eric noted, pointing to the display. Something's making them nervous. Admiral. Cooper nodded. Our strikes against their supply lines are having an effect, and the rebellions on their controlled worlds are spreading. The door opened, and Susan rushed in, followed by Alan. Admiral, Commander, we've done it. The neural disruptor virus is ready for deployment. Cooper's weathered face broke into a rare smile. Excellent work, Doctor. This could change everything. Eric studied Susan's data. How do we deploy it? It needs to be introduced directly into their command networks, Susan explained. Their ships, their bases, anywhere they have their neural link technology active. A direct assault, Eric said thoughtfully. Captain Carter's fleet could deliver. As if on cue, the communications officer called out, "Admiral, incoming transmission from Captain Carter's fleet." The main screen lit up, showing Captain Diane Carter on the bridge of her ship, the USS Defiant. Once a standard Earth vessel, the Defiant now incorporated adapted Kelvari technology, making it faster and more powerful than any ship humanity had possessed before the war. "Admiral," Diane said, her face serious, but with a hint of excitement in her eyes. "Operation Firebreak was successful. We destroyed 3 Kelvari supply depots in the Mars sector. Their reinforcements arrived too late." "Casualties?" Cooper asked. "Minimal. Sir, the hybrid shields held better than expected." Diane's expression changed as she noticed Susan. "Dr. Miller, how is your project progressing?" "It's ready, Captain," Susan replied. "The neural disruptor virus is complete." Diane's eyes widened slightly. "Then we're ready for the next phase?" Admiral Cooper nodded. "Yes. Return to Titan for briefing. We're moving forward with Operation Sunbreak." After the transmission ended, Eric turned to Cooper. "Sir, with the neural disruptor ready, should we alert our allies on Earth?" "Already done. Olivia Garcia's resistance network has been preparing for this moment. They'll coordinate ground attacks with our space offensive. On Earth, in the expanded resistance headquarters beneath the ruins of Chicago, Olivia Garcia briefed her commanders. The resistance had grown from a handful of survivors, hiding in tunnels, to a global network of fighters. And they weren't alone. Standing beside Olivia was Kale, no longer the sole Kelvari ally, but one of dozens who had defected to join the human resistance. Kale now led what they called the Freedom Caste, Kelvari who opposed the military leadership. "Titan Base has completed the neural disruptor," Olivia announced to the assembled commanders. "Admiral Cooper's fleet will begin the space offensive in 3 days. Our job is to coordinate ground attacks on key Kelvari installations." She pointed to a map showing Kelvari headquarters around the globe. "We'll focus on their primary command center here in North America. It's their most heavily defended installation on Earth, but also their most important. If we can deploy the disruptor virus there, it will affect their entire command structure." Ryan Cooper, now her chief of operations, spoke up. "Their defenses are too strong for a frontal assault." "That's why we're not going in the front door," Olivia replied with a small smile. "Kale's people have provided us with the access codes for their underground maintenance tunnels. We'll enter through their waste management system." One of the newer commanders laughed. "So we're literally going through their trash." "Whatever works," Olivia said with a shrug. "We have one shot at this. We need to coordinate perfectly with the space offensive." Back on Titan, Captain Diane Carter's fleet prepared for departure. The USS Defiant, now the flagship of humanity's space forces, was joined by 12 other hybrid vessels. Each incorporated Kelvari technology adapted by human engineers, creating ships that could stand against the invaders. On the bridge of the Defiant, Diane addressed her crew. "For 3 years, we've been on the defensive. We've lost worlds, lost friends and family. But today, that changes." She looked around at the determined faces watching her. "Today, we take the fight directly to the Kelvari." Lieutenant Ben Wright, her tactical officer, who had been with her since that first day when they detected the Kelvari signal, spoke up. "The neural disruptor, will it really work?" "Dr. Miller believes it will," Diane answered. "And I trust her. This isn't about destroying the Kelvari. It's about freeing them from their military leadership, the same leadership that forced this war on them and us." As the fleet launched from Titan, Admiral Cooper received an unexpected message from Akor. Secure channel rarely used. The face that appeared on his screen was one he hadn't seen in years. General William Hayes, Cooper said coldly. Hayes had been one of the first high-ranking officials compromised by the Kelvari, a key figure in the betrayal that had allowed the invasion to succeed. But Hayes looked different now. Tired, strained, his eyes clearer than they had been in reports Cooper had seen during the occupation. Frank, he said, using Cooper's first name, something from their days as colleagues. Before the war. I don't have much time. Their control slips sometimes, just for minutes. I've been fighting it for years. What do you want, William? Cooper asked cautiously. To help. The Kelvari High Command. They're not on Earth, as everyone believes. They're using a decoy. The real command center is on Phobos, Mars's moon. That's where Supreme Commander Varric is coordinating everything. Cooper's eyes narrowed. Why should I believe you? Because I've been a prisoner in my own mind for 3 years, Hayes said, his voice breaking slightly. And I want it to end. The neural disruptor you're developing, it could free all of us under their control. Before Cooper could respond, Hayes's expression changed, becoming rigid and empty. The connection has been traced, he said in a flat voice that wasn't his. Own. Your resistance will be crushed. The transmission cut off. Cooper immediately called an emergency meeting with Eric, Susan, and his top strategists. We need to change our plans, he announced. The real target isn't on Earth. It's on Phobos. As the human fleet adjusted its course, and the Earth resistance prepared for their coordinated attack, the tide of the war was about to turn. 3 years of occupation, of learning and adapting, had prepared humanity for this moment. The betrayal that had begun the war had sealed the Kelvari's fate. And now humanity was taking back not just their world, but their future. Phobos hung in space, a small irregular moon orbiting Mars. From a distance, it looked unremarkable. But hidden within its cratered surface was the true heart of the Kelvari Command, where Supreme Commander Varric directed the occupation of Earth. And its colonies. Captain Diane Carter stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, studying the tactical display of Phobos. Her fleet of 13 ships had used the asteroid belt to mask their approach, and now they were in position for the assault. No sign they've detected us, reported Lieutenant Ben Wright. Their sensor grid is focused outward, toward potential threats from Earth or Titan. Diane nodded. Good. Status of the infiltration team? Commander Simmons reports they're ready for deployment. Dr. Miller is with them. Diane took a deep breath. Everything depended on this mission. The neural disruptor virus had to be planted directly into the Kelvari Command Center systems. Eric had volunteered to lead the small team, and Susan had insisted on accompanying them since she was the one who understood the virus best. Tell Earth Resistance we're proceeding with the operation, Diane ordered. Begin countdown for synchronized attack. On Earth, Olivia Garcia received the message in her command post. Her forces were spread around the globe, positioned to strike. At key Kelvari installations, the moment the assault on Phobos began. It's time, she told her commanders. Remember, our primary goal is to disable their communications and prevent them from sending reinforcements to Phobos. Kale, are your people ready? Kale, now wearing a modified human combat suit with Freedom Cast insignia, nodded. Yes. When the neural disruptor activates, many Kelvari soldiers will be confused, possibly afraid. My people will help them understand what has happened. Olivia turned to the others. No unnecessary casualties. Many of the Kelvari troops are as much victims as we are. Let's move out. Back at Phobos, Eric Simmons led his small team of 6 toward the moon's surface in a stealth shuttle. Beside him sat Susan Miller, clutching a secure case containing the neural disruptor virus. 4 Special Forces soldiers completed the team. Approaching insertion point, Eric said quietly as he piloted the shuttle toward a maintenance airlock identified by intelligence. Remember, we need to reach the central neural network hub. Plant the virus, then get out before it activates. The shuttle landed silently on Phobos's dusty surface. Using specialized equipment, they bypassed the airlock security and entered the Kelvari base. The corridors were eerily quiet. "Where are the guards?" whispered one of the soldiers. Eric checked his scanner. Life signs are concentrated in the central areas. They're not expecting an attack here. They moved quickly through the facility, encountering only 2 Kelvari technicians who were quickly subdued with stun weapons. As they approached the central hub, however, they found heavier security. 6 guards, Eric reported after scouting ahead, and security systems we can't easily bypass. Susan studied the layout on her tablet. There's another way. Look, she pointed to a maintenance shaft. This runs behind the main hub. We can access the neural network from there without going through the guarded entrance. They crawled through the tight shaft, emerging in a small technical room filled with humming equipment. Susan immediately identified the main neural network interface. "This is it," she said, opening her case and removing a small device. "Once I connect this, we'll have 3 minutes to get back to the shuttle before the virus activates." As Susan worked, Eric received a communication from the Defiant. "Captain Carter reports the Kelvari have detected our fleet. The battle has begun. We need to hurry." Susan connected the device to the Kelvari system. It lit up, indicating the virus was uploading. "Done. Now we run." Above Phobos, the space battle had erupted in full force. The Defiant and its sister ships engaged the Kelvari defense fleet, which had scrambled to respond to the unexpected attack. "Their movements are becoming erratic," Ben reported as they watched the Kelvari ships on the tactical display. "The virus must be starting to affect their neural networks." Diane nodded. "Press the advantage. Target their weapons and propulsion systems, not their life support. Remember, we want to disable, not destroy." On the surface of Phobos, Eric's team raced back toward their shuttle, pursued by Kelvari guards who had discovered the intrusion. As they reached the airlock, one of the soldiers was hit by enemy fire. "Go!" the wounded soldier shouted, firing back at their pursuers. "I'll hold them off." Eric hesitated, but Susan pulled him forward. "We can't let the mission fail now." The remaining team members reached the shuttle and launched, just as the neural disruptor virus fully activated throughout the Kelvari command systems. On their view screen, they watched as lights flickered across the Phobos space dot in the main command. Chamber deep within Phobos, Supreme Commander Varric felt the neural controls slipping from his grasp. For the first time in decades, the military leaders were losing their hold over their own people. Varric stumbled to the emergency communication system. "Destroy them all," he ordered the fleet. No survivors. But his orders went unheeded. Across the Kelvari fleet, ship captains and crew found themselves suddenly free from the oppressive neural control that had dominated their minds. Many immediately ceased fire, confused and disoriented. The battle around Phobos transformed. Some Kelvari ships continued fighting, their commanders loyal to the military caste, even without neural control. Others went silent or even turned on the military loyalists. Diane watched in amazement. "It's working better than we hoped," she told her crew. "Open a channel to all Kelvari vessels." When the channel was established, she spoke clearly and calmly. "Kelvari ships, this is Captain Diane Carter of Earth. Your neural control networks have been disabled. You are free to make your own choices now. We offer ceasefire to any who wish to end this conflict." One by one, Kelvari ships powered down. Their weapons. Some sent messages of confusion, others of relief, and a few of continued defiance. But the unified Kelvari assault had fractured. On Earth, The effect was even more dramatic. Kelvari troops suddenly stopped following orders. Many put down their weapons, looking around in confusion. The resistance forces, led by Olivia and Kale, moved in to secure installations with minimal bloodshed. In the North American Command Center, Olivia found herself face to face with General William Hayes, who had been one of the first humans controlled by the Kelvari. As the neural control faded, tears streamed down his aged face. "It's over?" he asked weakly. "We're free?" "Yes," Olivia told him gently. "It's over." Back at Phobos, Eric and Susan's shuttle docked with the Defiant as the last pockets of resistance were being subdued. Admiral Cooper, who had joined the fleet for the final battle, called for a meeting of all senior officers. "The Kelvari military leadership is in custody," Cooper announced when they gathered, "including Supreme Commander Varric. But this isn't just a military victory. This is an opportunity for something more." Susan stepped forward. "The Kelvari plague, I've been studying it using the data we gathered. With human genetic material, I believe we can develop a cure." "A cure?" Eric asked. "You mean we could help them?" "Yes, the very reason they invaded us could become the foundation for peace." 3 months later, representatives from Earth and the newly formed Kelvari Provisional Government met on neutral ground, a space station orbiting the moon. Captain Diane Carter and Admiral Cooper represented Earth's military. Olivia Garcia and Kale represented the Joint Resistance. Dr. Susan Miller led the scientific delegation. Across the table sat Varric, now stripped of his Supreme Commander title, alongside representatives of various Kelvari castes, including many who had opposed the war from the beginning. "The terms are simple," Admiral Cooper stated. "Complete withdrawal from all human territories, reparations for damage caused, and in exchange, we offer the cure for your plague, developed by Dr. Miller and her team." Varric looked bitter, but the other Kelvari representatives nodded in agreement. "We accept these terms," said the leader of the Kelvari diplomatic caste, "and we offer something more: alliance. What our military took by force, we now wish to earn through cooperation." The peace treaty was signed that day. As Diane looked out the viewport at Earth, glowing blue and green below, she thought back to that first day when she had detected the Kelvari signal, the beginning of a war that had nearly destroyed humanity. Betrayal had sealed their fate, but not in the way the Kelvari had intended. Humanity had not just survived. They had emerged stronger, more unified, and with new allies among the stars. They had taken back their world. And now, together with the freed Kelvari, they would take on the universe.